What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Move the Needle. I'm your host, Randall Rutledge, and in today's episode, we're going to be talking about identity and how our identity affects our lives and what we can do to change our identity in a positive way. And I want to start off by asking you, do you even know who you are? And is that based off your thoughts or based off what society tells you, or have you even given this a thought at all? You know, most people believe their identity is fixed and locked in, and I'm here to tell you that could not be further from the truth. You have the ability to change your identity at any time, and if you change your identity, you will change your life. And your identity might be exactly what's holding you back in life, and I'm going to show you how we can change that. First, we should start off by saying, what is identity and how does it affect my life? Well, simply put, your identity is the thoughts, behaviors, and actions that we believe to be true about ourselves. And the way it affects us goes like this. Our identity determines our thoughts affect our behavior, and our behavior or actions reinforce our identity, and the cycle repeats itself. You know, the way I want you to think about things is think about your brain and your body kind of like a computer, and it's a machine that will do whatever you tell it to do. Whatever you put in, whatever the input is going to determine what that output is. So, for example, if I tell myself that I'm fat and then I go out there and I don't eat well and I don't work out, well, then what is my brain and body going to do? It's going to go to work for me to reinforce those thoughts, those ideas, and it's going to make me fat. In return, on the flip side of that coin, if I go tell myself I'm healthy, I'm athletic, and then I go do a workout and I eat a healthy meal, my brain and my body, it goes to work for me to achieve that result. And the best thing about your brain is it's unbiased. It does not care. It doesn't care if you're the best human being on earth or the worst human being on earth. It simply does what you tell it to do and what it's programmed to do. Now, the problem is the brain, it likes the same thing over and over again. It's kind of a creature of habit, and it hates change. And so when you go to make change and change in your life, what you're doing is you're fighting your brain, you're fighting your body, and you're fighting your identity. You're fighting those programs that are programmed to run over and over again, even if they don't serve you. So the brain hates change and it loves consistency. And when we go to change things about our life, a lot of time we're met with a lot of friction. And the reason why we have this friction is because we're trying to do things that are not congruent with our identity, right? If I identify as a person that is out of shape and I don't work out, and then I try to go work out, of course, that workout's going to be physically hard, but it's also going to be very mentally taxing as well, because my brain's like, what are you doing? This is not who we are. This is not what we do. And I don't want to help you do this at all. In fact, I'm going to give you some resistance, give you some friction, because the brain doesn't understand why you're trying to do something different. It doesn't make sense. And the brain really wants everything to make sense. Now, you can use this to your advantage and use it to your favor, because after a little bit of time, when you start to reprogram your brain, you start to tell your brain, I am healthy, I am athletic, I work out, and then you go do actions that reinforce those thoughts, your brain has no choice but to give you what you want, right? It has to be congruent and everything has to add up. So if you're thinking the way of a healthy person, you're speaking the way of a healthy person, and you're doing actions like a healthy person, your brain and your body, they start to go to work and actually turn you into a healthy person, okay? And the reason why this is really important is because for a lot of us, we get stuck on autopilot and we start running the same programs over and over and over in life, and we just tell ourselves, this is who I am, this is how I must be, and I'm never going to change, I can't change, right? We think that this is just how it is. Well, the problem with that is a lot of the things that we believe to be true about ourselves are not things that we want. They're not things that help us. They're not things that serve us at all. They're actually things that society gave us, or our parents gave us, or our friends tell us, right? From the time we're small, people start to tell us who we are. They tell you, you're shy, you're introverted, you're athletic, you're smart, you're artsy, whatever they tell you, we start to believe that thought, right? Then we go out and we do behaviors that reinforce that thought. Then we get results. Those results are the feedback that tell us that we're correct, and the cycle repeats. We do it over and over and over again. And the more we run these programs, the stronger they get, and the stronger they get tied to our identity. And there's some really great things that we tie to our identity, and it serves us in life. There's also a lot of things that don't serve us at all. And I'm a person that's had to change many times throughout my life to be able to adapt to my circumstances. So I know from personal experiences, you can completely change who you are, right? Believe it or not, the guy that you're sitting up here recording a podcast on YouTube is extremely shy and introverted. And in a way, I still have that within me. It still comes out. I still get anxious. I still have nerves, but I'm far from the person that I used to be. I used to not be able to get in front of camera at all, not be able to speak in front of people at all, but I started to change my identity, and I did that by changing the conversations that I have with myself, forcing myself to do actions that reinforce those thoughts, and over time, I'm able to change my identity, and by changing my identity, I actually change my outcomes because I become that person. We've all heard the saying, fake it until you make it, and that's not really what I'm implying here. What I'm implying is that over time, you can gradually make changes or shifts in your identity, and that's going to have changes in your results, right? So another example that I like to give people is a couple years ago when I was doing 75 hard, I lost 60 pounds in 75 days. And of course, I was working out, I was eating healthy. How else do you lose 60 pounds in 75 days? But if you look at the pictures, and I may even put them up on the channel here so you can kind of see that transformation. But if you look at the pictures, you're going to go, this doesn't make a whole lot of sense, right? How did you accomplish that, right? Well, for me, I really truly believe that a lot of it had to do with the work that I was doing mentally just as much as the work that I was doing physically, because I reprogrammed my brain. I would tell myself, I enjoy working out. I enjoy eating healthy. I am a healthy person. I am athletic. My body is a muscle-building, fat-burning machine. And I just drilled that into my brain. I drilled it into my mind through affirmations. And then I went out and I reinforced those thoughts with actions. I worked out like a crazy person. I ate healthy. But the simple truth is I gave my brain the math equation that it needed in order to give me the results that I wanted, right? And that's belief and action, because I can go out there and I can do the work all day long, but if I don't believe that it's going to do anything for me, I won't get any results. Same thing if I sit in my room and I just believe, right? I love manifestation. I love the power of positivity, positive thinking. But the truth is, you can't just believe your way into anything. It takes action as well, because you need your brain to recognize what's going on and go, okay, well, we have the belief, we have the action. Now we must produce the result, because the brain is like a computer. It's not biased. It just simply wants to give you what you want based off the inputs that it gives you. And if you can learn to think about your life and think about your brain in this way, you start to have a lot more control, and you get to decide a lot more oftentimes of who you are, how you act, how you look, how you conduct yourselves. We actually have a lot more control over that than what we give ourselves credit for. We tend to think this is just how I am, this is how it's always going to be, and I can never change. And I'm here to tell you that's not the truth. And if you want to start to have really big results in your life, it's going to come from you changing your identity, because changing your identity is going to help you change your habits. Your habits are obviously going to have a huge impact on your life. And the coolest thing about this is when we want results in life, a lot of times we think about discipline. We think about putting in the hard work. We think about doing things even when we don't want to do them. But a better way to do this is, instead of forcing myself to work out and forcing myself to eat healthy, why don't I just convince myself that I am healthy? Why don't I convince myself that I love working out? Then when I go to eat healthy and I go to work out, my brain is working with me instead of against me, right? Because I'm more congruent with who I believe that I am, and the actions that I'm doing, they actually reinforce those thoughts, so I get a better result. But a much easier way to do that is actually to change your identity first. And that way, when you start to do those actions that reinforce what you're trying to accomplish, you're working with your brain instead of against your brain, right? If you don't believe that you're a healthy person and you go out and you try to do things that would reinforce that, you're kind of creating friction. You're working against your body because your brain and your body, it just wants consistency. It wants homeostasis as much as possible. So go back to the root cause, really work on your identity first, and then go out and try to do those actions, do those disciplines. But this time, when you're doing those disciplines and doing those actions, like I said, you're going to be a lot more congruent with your identity. So your brain's actually going to help you achieve your goals versus working against you to try to stop you from your goals. Another example of identity would be, if I walked up to somebody and they've never smoked a cigarette in their life, and I walked up to them and I said, "Hey, do you want to smoke a cigarette?" It's a pretty easy answer. They're going to say no, right? Now, if I walk up to somebody that just quit smoking cigarettes a couple weeks ago and I say, "Hey, do you want a cigarette?" This is a really hard question for them, right? They're probably going to have to use a lot of willpower and a lot of discipline to say no. And let's be honest, using willpower and using discipline is exhausted. Now, what was the difference between person one and person two? The temptation that I gave them was the exact same. Do you want to smoke a cigarette? The difference was the first person did not identify as a smoker. So it was very easy. No, I'm not a smoker. Why would I want a cigarette? Person number two, they did identify as a smoker, so it was much more difficult for them to turn down that cigarette because it went with their identity versus against their identity, if that makes sense to you. So the person that identifies as a smoker is going to have a lot harder time turning down that cigarette. They're going to have to use discipline and willpower in order to turn down that cigarette. And let's be honest, using discipline and willpower is exhausting. If you have to go through your entire life constantly, using your willpower, using discipline to overcome every one of your problems, you're going to have a really hard time in life because we get exhausted and we say, screw that, this is too hard. I'm going to cave in, I'm going to give in, right? What is a better approach is going back to the root problem and changing your identity to be a person that does not smoke, does not like cigarettes, and does not want cigarettes. And you can do that simply by speaking to yourself, doing affirmations, changing the way that you talk about yourself, changing the way you think about yourself, and then doing some actions or habits that reinforce those thoughts over a little bit of time, over a consistent time. Your body and your brain will start to change, your identity will start to change, and then your brain will go, I don't crave cigarettes, right? Your brain, your body will not even crave cigarettes anymore because that's not who you are. It would not make sense for your brain and your body to crave cigarettes if you were not a smoker, right? So when trying to quit a habit, the same thing is true. You want to change your identity so you can quit something, just like you want to change your identity so you can start working out, so on and so forth. And I don't want to get in habits too much because habits and identity, they do run together. They are very closely related, but I'm going to do a whole nother episode on habits and how you can get your brain to work with you and do habits and do routines and how to use that to your advantage. That'll be another episode, but I really want to drill in the idea of identity. And once again, guys, this is a difficult topic to understand. It's an even more difficult topic to explain. I encourage you to do your own research when it comes to this, but from my experience, I've just seen time after time, if I focus on changing my identity, I get a lot better results than just trying to change my habits without trying to change who I think I am, because it's not congruent with my mind and my body. I'm constantly working against myself to achieve a result that the brain's not familiar with. The brain's not trying to do this. It's not trying to lose weight, but I am. And so I try to reverse engineer that, really focus on my identity first. And then once I get my identity down, then when I stack some really good habits with my identity, I start to get some really good results. And then my brain is back in homeostasis. It's back doing what it wants to do. It's congruent. The mind and body are in sync and getting along. And I can start to run my life in different rituals and routines where I don't have to think a whole lot, right? I don't have to use a lot of willpower. I don't have to use a lot of discipline throughout my day, because I've just convinced myself this is who I am and this is what we do. And over time, my brain learned, okay, this is the identity that Randall has, and we need to make sure that we're very consistent and we provide him with the experience that matches what he believes to be true about himself. And whatever he believes to be true about himself, that's the experience that we're going to give him, right? That's at least been my experience in life. When I started changing my identity and started changing the way that I thought about myself, my whole life changed. All my results started to change. Life got a heck of a lot easier because I wasn't just fighting my brain and fighting my body anymore. And so I want to leave you with this. Ultimately, your identity is going to have a huge effect on you, because it's going to determine how you act and the actions that you take throughout the day. And obviously, we all know that the actions and decisions you make are ultimately going to determine your results, is going to determine your life. So if you can get a handle on who am I and who do I want to be, and you can start to construct your life in a way where you become the person that you want to be, right? I believe that we're all living this life, and it's almost like we have a video game character that we get to control, and we get to upgrade, we get to change, we get to do whatever we want to this character. We can be whoever we want, but a lot of times we float through life and we just listen to what society tells us. We just listen to what our friends tell us. We just really do what everyone else tells us to do. We never stop and think, who am I? What is my identity? What do I want my identity to be? And then what's a plan of attack I can come up with to start to become that person? What is that person that I want to become? How do they think? How do they feel? How do they dress? What do they say? What are the things that they do? I need to give my brain as much data as humanly possible. The more information I can put into the computer, the better result the computer is going to give me. So the more data that I can tell my brain that I'm healthy, and I can show it by the way that I talk, the way that I dress, the way that I move, the things that I do, right? Whatever it is that I'm trying to accomplish, the more data that I can give my brain, the better it's going to be able to go to work for me to achieve those results and achieve those goals. You know, another thing that we see a lot is, and you hear about when people win the lottery, right? They win the lottery and they're instantly filthy rich, and within a few years, they're dead broke, right? The reason this is not because they had, poor money management or they just spent all their money. The truth is their identity was not congruent with a person that was extremely wealthy. And so they identified as a person that was poor, or identified as a person that was middle class, and now I have all this money. Well, your brain starts to freak out a little bit because it's like, this doesn't add up, right? This doesn't make sense to me. Why do we have all this money? We didn't do anything to even earn this money. We didn't do anything to deserve this money at all, right? So why do we have it? And what happens is your life, yourself, you start to self-sabotage and you start to find ways to get rid of that money as quickly as possible, because your brain, your body, the universe, whatever you want to call it, it needs homeostasis. It needs to get back to where it feels it's supposed to be. And we see this all the time. People win the lottery, a couple of years later, they're dead broke. It happens over and over and over again. And I truly believe it's because their identity did not match their income. Their identity did not match the amount of money that they have. So another way I like to explain it, or another phenomenon, is I'm in sales. And when I'm in sales, I'm hiring salespeople. One of the good indicators that they're going to do really well in sales is that they've made six figures before in a previous career or a previous income. And what's really cool is it doesn't even matter if it was a different industry, an unrelated industry. It doesn't matter if it wasn't even sales related, right? They made $100,000 just in hospitality or in construction or whatever it is. The fact of the matter is their identity is a person that makes six figures. That's what they believe to be true about themselves. They believe, I make $100,000 a year. That's my income. And so when I bring them into my organization, even if they don't have any experience at all, the fact that they've made six figures before makes them much more likely to be able to come into a sales job and make six figures, just because that's their identity. That's what they believe to be true about themselves, and they believe they can make $100,000, so they do. On the flip side of that coin, if I have somebody that all they've ever made is $36,000 in their life, and now they have an unlimited income opportunity where they can go out and make as much money as humanly possible, you would think that they would want to, and I think they do want to, but you think they'd go out there and they'd make a ton of money, right? The truth is, that's not going to happen. They're going to make relatively close to what they made the year before, or what they've made in other careers, even when they get to a different career where they get to control their income. And I see this time and time and time again, and it goes back to people's identity. What they believe to be possible for themselves and what they believe they deserve is ultimately what they get. And if you can change what you believe about yourself, and you can change what you feel you deserve, you will also change your outcome. You'll change your result, and you get to move it up a notch. You get to move up to the next level. And then you've got some feedback to tell yourself, hey, I deserve to be here. I belong to be here, right? And now that I'm at this new level, I start to get the results for that new level, so on and so forth, until the next time I can raise the level of my identity. I can change my identity to be something bigger, to be somebody better. Now, I hope you can understand just how important your identity is, and how focusing on your identity and focusing on changing your identity is overall going to make your life a lot easier, and make doing the habits and make doing the disciplines that you need to get your results. It'll make it a lot easier because you're being more congruent with yourself. You're being more true to yourself. Okay. Another tactic where you can actually help change your identity is through association. We've all heard the saying, you are who you associate yourself with, or you're the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And this is 100% true. And one of the quickest ways to change your identity is actually to go and associate with people that have the identity that you want. So, for example, if I want to get in better shape, all I simply have to do is go hang around people that are in better physical shape than me, and walk like them, act like them, talk like them, so on and so forth. I'll start to get those results. Same is true in my financial life. If I want to get to the next level financially, I probably need to go hang around some people that are on another level than me financially. And just simply by associating with those people, my body, my brain, my universe, whatever you want to call it, is going to go to work to start to make that a reality and make it where I am the average of the people that I'm around. It doesn't make sense for me to be on level 2 in my fitness if all I hang around people, if all I do is hang around people that are on a level 10 on their fitness. Over time, eventually, I'm not going to get to where they're at. I'm going to end up somewhere in the middle, but they are going to have an effect on me. Same thing from a financial standpoint. If I'm a person that makes 6 figures and then I hang around people that are millionaires, maybe I'm not going to be a millionaire overnight, but over time, my identity is going to change, and my identity is going to change my habits, change my decisions, change my thoughts to go out there and to produce the result. So I can be a 7-figure earner myself, and ultimately that's how identity works, is simply putting things into your mind, putting things into your body to then set yourself up to achieve the results that you want. And we all get to choose our identity. We all get to choose our inputs. It's just hard at times to think this way. It's hard at times to really slow down and focus on your identity and then put the steps in place in order to start to shape yourself to become the person that you want to be. And I also want to say, if you're new to this topic and you've never heard anybody speak about identity, I highly recommend you go out and you do some research for yourself. For me personally, Ed Milet and Tony Robbins are the two guys that I really listen to the most on identity, and especially when I was trying to change who I was in a drastic way. Those are the guys that I was listening to try to help me, change my identity. So really encourage you to get out there, do some research on this topic yourself. Like I said, it is a confusing topic, very difficult topic to explain, but ultimately very, very powerful and has a huge effect on our lives. And if you can wrap your mind around this concept and you can figure out a way to apply it to your life, I promise you it is a game changer. It has been a game changer for me personally. As always, I hope this information helps you in some way. If it does, please give us a like. Please subscribe to our content and do not forget to share. More than likely, you have somebody on your friends list that needs to hear this message. You can actually help somebody out today just by clicking that share button. Really means a lot to me and everyone here at Move the Needle. We don't do this show or do this production for ourselves. We do it to truly get information out there to people that we feel is going to be impactful for their life and it's going to help them out. So once again, thank you guys for all the love, all the support. Do not forget to like, subscribe, and share. And don't forget to tune in next week. We'll be dropping another episode for you guys to help you out in your lives. Hope this was helpful. Love you. Bye.